Okay, so now as we do every week on the show, we will be talking about the DCU. And on DCU Daily today, we want to talk about what is a very interesting question, right? So we are now in a transitional phase with DC. So we have James Gunn, Peter Safran, of course. They have charted a new path, a new course for the franchise, and DC Studios is now a thing. So along with all of that comes new castings, new projects, out with the old and with the new. So the question I wanted to ask you, which DCEU actors would you want to bring back in the DCU? And let me clarify a little bit, which actors? I'm not saying actors as characters. I mean, yeah, you could say I want to bring back this actor as the same character from the DCEU in the DCU, or potentially you can bring back an actor but have them play somebody different that they haven't played before. But in general, I want to ask you, which DCU actor would you like to see come back into the fold in the new DCU?
Probably a lot of them, to be honest. I feel like a lot of actors did do a pretty good job in their original roles. And honestly, it's like once you've seen someone as that character, unless they did like a pretty terrible job, it is kind of hard to see someone else in that role. But definitely, I think some faves that a lot can agree on would probably be Margot Robbie as Harley
Yeah,
Quinn. Is like,
absolutely.
I honestly could not imagine anybody else playing that role. And if they did, that would be that would be such a hard act to follow. She did such an amazing job in the Suicide Squad and then in her sequel as well. I think she was definitely kind of iconic in that. And then too, I actually whatever role he does end up playing, I actually really do like Jason Momoa as well. Love him as Aquaman, but maybe another role too. I think he could be good at. He's just, I think, a really strong character to have.
Yeah,
Actor.
I know. Absolutely. We've, of course, had rumors that he might be playing Lobo in the new universe. He walked out of a meeting with David Zaslav super excited and posted about it on his social media a few months ago. Although, in hindsight, I feel like he was probably super excited about the fact that they brought him on as basically the face of Shark Week this year, or Shark Month, or whatever, the thing that Discovery does. And
Right.
he was like the host of it. He did all the promotional work and everything. And I'm sure he had a ton of fun with that. And that might be what he was excited about. He was like, I can't tell you guys, it's a little secret right now. Or, I mean, it could be something to do with Aquaman, Lobo, or something else DC related. Um, but I do see your point. Like, I think Jason Momoa for me was perfect casting. It was very much against the grain of what Aquaman has looked like in the comics, historically
Right.
speaking.
Hmm.
But I think very much from a representation standpoint, and again, just from a simple talent standpoint, Jason Momoa's got that energy. He's got the charisma. He's got the look. He's got the physique to pull it off,
He
right?
did.
And the first movie definitely, is a testament to all of that and so much more. In addition to all the other work he's done. I mean, I've been a big fan of Jason Momoa going back all the way to Stargate Atlantis, which is a cool connection. Like, who knew years ago he was playing a character Ronan Dex on Stargate Atlantis of all things, which different concept of Atlantis, but and later on he would go on to play Aquaman, the king of or the to be king, and now
Right.
king of Atlantis. And yeah, I mean it's similar to like in the Marvel where Nick Fury historically wasn't a black character, and then of course they cast Samuel Jackson, and the rest is history. Nowadays, most people can't imagine Nick Fury not looking like Samuel L. Jackson, and they
Right.
changed what Nick Fury looks like in the comics over since the MCU began because they were like, this is the definitive iteration. And while I wouldn't necessarily say that Jason Momoa's Aquaman is that definitive per se, I mean particularly because at this point in time he's only done one movie. Of course, the second one is coming out, and so we may think even more differently, especially if the second one gets anywhere close to the $1 billion that the first one made. But yeah, in my opinion, I would say like, yeah, Jason Momoa is a great casting. They should keep around. Of course, we know that Ray Fisher probably will not come back with playing Cyborg. He's been pretty vocal about his disdain for what's been going on with DC and Warner Brothers in general post Zack Snyder, and even I don't know whether it's misplaced or not. I don't know all the facts, but like he's taking shots at James Gunn, which I'm sure James Gunn didn't necessarily appreciate. So unless there's something going on behind the scenes where they have some sort of a truce. I mean, and I don't know if James Gunn would be like going for, or anybody should be willing to go that far to bring like somebody back into the fold, unless you feel like they're like that Robert Downey Jr. level of perfect casting for Iron Man. Speaking of which, of course, a lot of people love Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill's, Batman and Superman respectively, but we know those two are not coming back, which is
Mm,
very, very disappointing for me because I really was looking forward to seeing more Henry Cavill Superman,
no,
especially
I
after
think,
getting a tease last year.
and when you
Uh,
made that announcement, it's just like, it's hard too because it's like he is so Superman. It's
he
he
and,
just
and not
is.
just and in real life too, he's got the personality, like the just he's humble,
That
he's
shit.
he's got the chin, he's definitely got the chin. He's also can bulk up for the role, like he was like physically like a Superman, like you see like Zack Snyder like wants his actors, even like Gal Gadot was in probably the best shape of her life playing Wonder Woman, because he's like,
Yeah.
you gotta look the part, like we're not gonna like pad you
Like
up.
he's it.
Like if I remember Ben Affleck in Batman v Superman, he was like, and not just like from like the movie itself, because like it's in the movie, the shots in the movie, but I remember seeing like paparazzi photos of him like walking out of a Dunkin' Donuts or something, or Starbucks with like a colada in his hand, and he was like so jacked, he was like doing one of these, like to sip coladas, and it was like like normal people be like this, he was like
Yeah.
this because his like
Didn't
muscles
even get
were like
my
still
arm like
bulging. I
too
was like,
big,
or like he was wearing like some shirt that was like tight on his chest, like the shirt is just
of course.
showing you like he looks like a superhuman being. Like it was insane, like how well put together those people. And I can imagine like you can't keep that up all the time. And
Mhm.
having said all that, though, I will always have the regret, as many DC fans, that we may never get that Ben Affleck solo Batman movie. And I don't care what story they developed or adapted. The script itself that Ben Affleck wrote, I'm sure, was fantastic. But regardless of whatever direction they went with that movie, I would have just loved to see Ben Affleck and dig into the character of Bruce Wayne, and more importantly, the character of Batman in a solo movie, considering what he did with the character and all the other movies he was a part of, where he always had to share screen time with like Superman and Wonder Woman or all the other Justice League members. It was just one of the disappointments of the DCEU in general. But I digress. I think like as far as moving forward, I would love to see those actors come back and play some other characters, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon because there's still a lot. Because and recently on the channel we've talked about stuff like how do they shed the baggage of the DCEU before they move forward with the DCU, and part of that has to do with the fact you can't bring back a character actor who played an iconic character, particularly one where that still polarizes the audience in both directions. Like there's a lot of people out there who loved Henry Cavill Superman, a lot of people out there who didn't love Henry Cavill Superman. They might have even hated Henry Cavill Superman, or they absolutely adored him. And when you bring him back playing a different character in any time point in time in the next 4 or 5 years, you're gonna draw a comparison. You're gonna draw back all of that baggage that you would have otherwise left behind. So I think simply for that reason alone, like Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, and depending on what happens with Wonder Woman, maybe even Gal Gadot, they probably won't be a part of the DCU for some time to come, regardless of what character they play. Certainly, for Wonder Woman, I mean, I don't know if they're going to recast that character or they're going to keep uh, Gal Gadot in the role, which I actually thought she was also one of those really well cast roles.
Yeah.
Um, and I also will bring up Will Smith, who I think it was scheduling conflicts why he did not come back as Deadshot in the Suicide Squad, but I thought he was one of the best parts of the first Suicide Squad movie. Him along with, like you mentioned, Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, were the two highlights of a film that I think otherwise underwhelmed a lot of critics, although it made like $750 million at the box
Yeah.
office. So even though the audience score wasn't the best, it still made enough money. I was like, I don't know what you're looking at the audience score for. If a movie makes over $700 million,
Who cares?
I
They got
mean,
paid.
it's people must have liked it enough to go see it that much, right? So yeah, I mean, that's I always thought that his portrayal, Will Smith's portrayal of Deadshot, it was a role that we should have gotten more of. I would love to see him play that character again. His interaction with his daughter in that movie, was fantastic, and I'd love to see that relationship played out a bit more. Of course, with the new DCU, they can start fresh and be like that previous movie doesn't exist. Of course, in the new canon, so we're just gonna kind of start you over, but same actor in the role. I would love to see maybe if they eventually have a Rick Flag. I know they have a Rick Flag Senior played by Frank Grillo, but if they have, a Rick Flag Junior or just Rick Flag, maybe Joel Kinnaman can somehow come back, or maybe Joel Kinnaman could come back in a different role. I love him in For All Mankind. I loved him in RoboCop. Even there was a Netflix show that he was a part of that I'm forgetting the name of right now, but Joel Kinnaman is one of my favorite actors going right now. So I'd love to. He's in the new John Woo movie, Silent Night, which looks fantastic. So I would love to see him back in the DC fold in some way. I thought Zachary Levi was also very well cast as Shazam. Granted that I don't know, maybe there's a potential concern that he might grow out of that role. Although, like, he's already playing the adult version of Shazam, and it's not like he's going to start looking super old in a few years. But if they're looking to cast somebody in the role who's going to be playing it for a decade plus, then maybe Zachary Levi's not the right fit. Maybe it will depend on what story they're trying to tell. A lot of that will depend on what stories they're trying to tell, because quite frankly, right now they've only announced so many projects. They can only do so many projects for the next 4 or 5 years, and then depending on how well that goes, then we may get more. So yeah, I mean, those are some of the ones that I would like to see come back. Will Smith, Zachary Levi,
Yeah.
Jason Momoa, of course, Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill, and Ben Affleck maybe down the road, but not right now. So you want to create that separation between the old DCEU and the new DCU. So yeah, most of the Justice League characters. I mean, Ezra Miller. I guess if he's really in a redemption arc for real, then maybe 5 years from now we give it some consideration. But it doesn't look like there's any Flash related projects in the works in the new DCU as of yet. So who knows? Maybe it will be years before we even get to that point. So with having said all that, let me ask you, what characters or what actors would you rather not have come back from the old DCU into the new DCU? Um, what actors would you rather not, maybe you'd like to recast those characters in the new DCU because you didn't like their portrayal in the old DCU?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely probably Ezra Miller. Just all the controversy, I think, really kind of opened up a lot. I always kind of thought he was a little of an, bit interesting as an actor, but really that kind of just, and with the opening of The Flash, I just feel like it was a really chaotic time for DC, and I would be
Yeah.
very surprised if they did recast him. It just kind of took a Shia LaBeouf turn, it seemed, and
Yeah, I mean, and well, in many ways, much worse because,
yeah,
like, I don't know. I don't think anybody's. Well, he's definitely had charges pressed against him. I don't know if anything has gone to trial or not, but, um, yeah, he's in some serious trouble. I don't think he's completely out of the woods. And look,
yeah.
there's been redemption arcs for people. Like,
There's so many other actors who would love to play this role. Why? I just
yeah.
don't even see the point. Why people will, if he really wanted it, like,
Yeah,
just
no, I get that. It's a lot to trust somebody with like 200 plus $1 million budgets of from a studio, that big of an investment, and put that on the shoulders of somebody who you can't rely on
yeah,
to stay on the straight and narrow for the sake of a project that has got thousands of other people involved in it, thousands of other people who call it their
horrible.
work that you're affecting. But look, ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're a fan of Ezra Miller's portrayal of the Flash, which I actually, especially in the Zack Snyder version of Justice League, the Snyder cut, I thought that, his portrayal of the Flash was fantastic. I think as an actor playing the role of the
He's
Flash of
wonderful.
Barry Allen, Ezra Miller did a really good job. And Hollywood and people in general love their comeback stories. Of course, Robert Downey Jr. Once upon a time, you would have never thought he would be playing a character as iconic and as cultural zeitgeist gripping as Iron Man. It's Tony Stark. Like we can't imagine anybody else playing that character. Tom Cruise was on a big decline for years. And his reputation took a nosedive in the mid 2000s until like Tropic Thunder, and then Mission Impossible comes back, and now all of a sudden Top Gun Maverick, and Tom Cruise is a Hollywood darling again, and so we have seen that happen. Granted, it doesn't happen for
It's
everybody.
possible. Yeah,
It's definitely possible, but it's not something that I think we should be contemplating in the next few years. And I think that's
right.
maybe part of the reason why, to just simply avoid, like, I think James Gunn and Peter Safran are smart enough to know that if they were to announce a project uh, relating to the Flash, any version of the Flash, regardless of whether it's the Barry Allen version or any of the other iterations of the character, if they were to announce that for the new DCU in its first chapter, that would automatically invite questions and speculation and comparisons to the Ezra Miller version of the Flash, regardless of whether they said that it was going to be recast or not. So I think it's very smart of them to kind of just leave that character off to the side. Like we'll put that in our back pocket. We have one of the most iconic characters in the history of comics. We'll get back to him. We'll have a Flash eventually, but we don't have to worry about it in like the first chapter of this DCU. And similarly, I think they might have done something similar with Wonder Woman, like with Gal Gadot. Like we may eventually get an answer, and it may just be that Gal Gadot is indeed going to play Wonder Woman in a third Wonder Woman movie. That may, again, that third movie may have no connection to the first two, but it would be a third Wonder Woman movie with Gal Gadot featured as the titular character. But it may not happen for 5 years. Like, and it's not like she's doesn't have other things to work on. She's got like a franchise with Heart of Stone on Netflix. She's got other projects that she's working on. She's starting to do more work as a producer. She might want to get behind the camera more as a director maybe in the future. So she's, as a businesswoman, she's doing fantastically well, of course, as an on-screen actress, as she's improved a lot. So she's got plenty to do. As does Patty Jenkins, I'm sure, with other projects, outside of directing Wonder Woman. So there's a lot of definitely a lot of actors who we would love to see come back. I would love to see George Lopez back. In the world of Blue Beetle, of course, Shola Mary Duenas is already coming back as Blue Beetle. Love that movie. And I would love to see, John Cena's Peacemaker continue, which we know is going to happen. Vigilante is coming back in that too. Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis, is exactly as despicable of a character as it needs to be. And I just love how Viola Davis as an actor just has the ability to just make you feel that sense of hatred towards a character as soon as that character enters the
Right.
frame. Um, and I was like, and the fact is that in the previous two Suicide Squad movies, they've played with almost killing her off on 2 or 3 occasions, and each time, in the audience, even though the villains were the ones trying to kill her, and she's supposed to be the good per guy in this situation, everybody in the audience was like, "Oh my god, please do, please do, please do."
Do it.
But the,
Yeah.
but the fact that she has survived it and she's stuck around and she seems to be the connective tissue. Recently on DC Daily, we talked about how she might be like the new Nick Fury of the DC universe. So that person who kind of shows up and connects all the dots. She was already kind of doing that in the old DCE with Black Adam and Shazam: Fury of the Gods, kind of like mixing in and Peacemaker. So yeah, any other character, any other actors that come to mind? I mean, because I can keep listing these off like all day long. I think the DC has always made good casting decisions.
I do have a hot take, actually, that I know a
Yeah,
lot of people would never, and I don't think he'll ever come back in this role, but I actually did like him was, please forgive me, but it was Jared Leto as the Joker. I know people, criticize
yeah,
performance, but the funny thing is, I just remember after seeing the movie, before even seeing any reviews, I actually felt like of all the Jokers, his seemed to me to be more in line with like the actual comics than the other ones.
yeah,
Like I did, obviously Heath Ledger was fantastic, but
yes,
his Joker was just, I felt like that was his own interpretation, his own kind of thing, but it wasn't
yeah,
close to the kind of, you know,
yeah. Or even like Mark Hamill's like animated version of the character, like this
yeah,
very the
kind of
comic book.
cartoony. And I kind of felt like Jared Leto was, I mean, obviously very weird, but I kind of feel like it kind of worked for that in a way
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
But
I,
that's
and
just,
and no, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you because I think like a lot of people don't give it enough credit. Granted, like his form of method acting that he proclaim
you know,
champions and all that has a little controversial or whatever. But like he had a bit part in Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I enjoyed his interaction with Batman, which was the first time we saw that happen in the DCEU, and that was fantastic. I would have loved to see more of that. I definitely think that his interactions with Harley Quinn, with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, that was incredibly underrated. That I would have loved to see more of that.
yeah,
And they hinted at maybe a spin-off movie that never happened. I would have loved to see that happen. And to be quite frank with you, I just think that, and as David Ayer has said on many an occasion, that look, they cut out a lot of the Joker scenes, a lot of the more intense, dramatic, and maybe poignant Joker scenes from the original Suicide Squad
Yeah.
movie. And if we ever get, the Ayer cut of the film, we may have a renewed appreciation for Jared Leto as Joker.
Like, oh my God, he's amazing. What were we saying? But I know he got so much heat for it. And even me and my brother, because my brother agreed with me, and I was like, am I crazy? Because I didn't think it was that bad. But yeah, I don't think he'll be playing that role anytime soon.
No, I agree with you. I look, it's um yeah, I think it's one of those things where it becomes cool to bag on something because everybody is doing it and you just want to jump on that train. But I don't think Jared Leto's Joker was half bad. And yeah, they could have, like, you don't nail every aspect of the character, but you can always go and improve upon it. And then
Mhm.
in further iterations, you perfect it. And not everybody can be Heath Ledger and put in an Oscar-winning performance the first time around, or let's be fair, Joaquin Phoenix putting in an Oscar-winning performance the
I
first time
know.
around. Maybe it takes a try or two, or Jack Nicholson. I mean, there's so many. If you look at like the actors who have played Joker over the years, it's like it's a who's who, and awards laden, iconic. And yeah, I think Jared Leto could have been more well regarded if he had gone to see more of him. So I agree with you there. So, guys, let us know in the comments below. What do you think? Which of the actors that we talked about would you like to see come back in the new DCU from the old DCEU, and which actors would you rather not ever see in the DCU who were previously in the old DCEU? Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe for more content like this. And of course, you're back here every day on DC Daily talking about more DC related news, updates, reviews, previews, so much more to come. James Gunn is talking all about the new updates, and he's saying there's way more news to come and is going to come fast and heavy. So we're going to be here to talk all about it and keep you up to date. So guys, keep tuned into DC Daily. We'll be back here each and every day, keeping you up to date.